What is going on YouTube? K293 here with a remastered version of my pen spinning tutorials. For those of you who don't watch my vlogs on a consistent basis, first of all, I completely understand they are very long, but one of the things I mentioned in those vlogs is that I was considering on remastering my tutorials, which basically means reshooting them and editing them, but using this camera, which is much higher quality than what my original point and shoot camera could shoot in terms of video quality. And also, since I have much better upgraded audio equipment as well, I can produce this with very high production value or just very high video quality, audio quality, all of that jazz, and hopefully be able to help out the newer spinners a little bit more. I thought it seemed a little bit unfair that, even though many of you guys have learned from my old tutorials and the ones I consider bad in terms of quality, if I have the ability, the time, the equipment to be able to remaster them and recreate them so that it's easier to learn, then I should go ahead and do that. And that's what I'm doing right now. So let's go ahead and get into it with the most basic of all pen spinning tricks, which is the Thumbaround. So for those of you who don't know, the Thumbaround looks like this. And hopefully that slow-mo worked out. I'm shooting the slow-mo on my iPhone, which shoots at 120 FPS, but in 720p. So if it looked a little bit pixelated, sorry about that, but still considered HD, and it's much higher frame rate than what my camera can achieve. So hopefully that all worked out. If it didn't, I apologize. So the Thumbaround gets its name, obviously, because the pen is going around your thumb. And this is very similar for index around, middle around, all those other ones. But this one is more fundamental because it's debatably easier. And it's one that many people are familiar with. Even if you have, classmates or peers or, colleagues who aren't pen spinners, some of them might know this trick. And that's why some people call it a fundamental. It also helps you learn the awareness and kind of the ins and outs of how to learn how to pen spin. Not just learning how to do a specific trick, but how to learn subsequent tricks. So start with some terminology. Pen, of course, any writing instrument. When I say pen here, it's called pen spinning because the original pen spinners used like modified pens, but you can use pencils, you can use markers technically, you can use anything that's more rod shaped. Get your minds out of the gutter right there. But a standard pen will work for many of these tricks. And what I'm going to try to do when I remaster these tutorials is to try to use the most basic pen I can for the tricks that I feel make it easiest to learn, while also trying to keep it accessible for people who don't have access to, Penwish or Pendulsa, or the ability to order a lot of other pen parts to make special modified pens. But as you can see here, I'm just using a standard pen. This is a Pentel RSVP, which is a very well-known pen in the pen spinning world. Not only because you can write with it, as it is a standard office pen, but the cap, the barrels, the grips, all that stuff is a very good base and foundation for many other pen mods. But we won't get into that. I'm just using a standard pen. For those of you guys who have been pen spinning for a while and are still watching this anyway, you guys are very familiar with it. But any pen, pencil, and marker will do for a lot of tricks. I'm just using this for the sake of argument. But that was a really long tangent. Sorry about that. So the Thumbaround. You want to first locate your pen, pencils, again, whatever writing instrument you may be using. You want to locate its center of gravity, and you can do that by sticking your middle finger out. Sorry, ring finger. Wow, I can't name my fingers. You want to do that by sticking your index finger out and balancing the pen on it, and around there is where the center of balance or center of gravity is for the pen. Now it looks kind of weird because you're at an angle, but relative to where the pen is, that is where it is for me. For all intents and purposes, I'm going to say it's where the ink ends right there is where that is. So the way you want to hold your pen, make a peace sign, but make it kind of relaxed. Don't, stretch out as far as you can, but don't put them super close together as if you're just doing a handgun kind of thing. Relaxed peace sign. Put the pen where the center of gravity is, which again, I'm calling where the ink ends here. Put it on your middle finger, and then make the pen touch your index finger wherever that is comfortable and wherever it lands. Again, not too far out like this, but not too close together, just kind of wherever it lands. And then take your thumb and put it wherever in between. It can be here if that's comfortable. I don't recommend that because it will kind of make it harder, but it's still doable. But I find it easiest if you kind of have your thumb opposite of your index finger. So it looks like this. Now, what you have to do is obviously push the pen, but how do you do that? Well, this is the part that's going to take the most practice and most coordination, especially if you haven't done this before or have no experience pen spinning. So there are 3 steps beyond this point that I deem important to learn and to be able to coordinate before you can successfully understand this trick. So there's the release, there's the push, and then there's a catch. So those 3 things is what I'm going to call them. The release is if you try to, so spoilers here, you push the pen with your middle finger, just because if you think of your thumb as kind of an axis here around it, which it rotates, then you can't push with your index finger because it's straight on it. It won't move. But here you can push this way. So the release is you have to let go of the pen by extending your index finger out like this. And what this does, if you look at it from this angle, you're holding it like this. If you do this, this lets the pen spin. Because if you don't let it spin, I guess it's better this way. You're holding it like this. If you let go of your index finger or you extend it forward so it's not touching the pen is able to rotate and it's able to rotate this way and clear your index finger. If you're still holding it like this, the pen can't spin because your index finger is blocking it. So from this angle, the angle that I think you would most likely be seeing it at, or close to anyway, you extend your index finger, and then right after you do that, you go into the push. So this is what I call the release. Not a huge deal. But you want to immediately go onto the push. And the reason is because if you let go like this, the pen's going to want to do its own thing. So obviously you have to do something before that happens. And since gravity works pretty quick, I'd say, you want to do it immediately after. Now, how do you push the pen? I suggest you use something I would, closely relate to a light rubbing motion. Think of like how you would snap your fingers, but don't actually snap your fingers. Use that similar motion, but just do like a gentle rub, kind of like this. And the reason, and when you're doing this, try to make it as like consistent and smooth as possible. No jerking. Like a snap, for example, it's like stationary and then boom, all at once. That's really quick acceleration. You don't want that because your pen, if you try to do that same motion to it, will go flying. So you want to obviously avoid that because you can't catch it if it goes flying. So you want to gently and consistently and smoothly bring your middle finger towards your thumb. Kind of like, again, like as if you were rubbing it like this, or as if you were trying to put your middle finger down like this. Whichever one works for you. And when you get that motion, from there, this is where it takes the most practice. You have to understand and try to find out how much force you need to push the pen all the way around. Because one of, I guess, 3 things could happen here. You could push too softly, and then what happens is the pen would go like this, and then under its own weight, it'll just kind of fall off like that. You could push just the right amount, which is obviously ideal. You would push the pen, and then it would go to where you need to go, where it needs to go, which is here, and then you can catch it. And then the last scenario, of course, is if you push too much, you can push the pen, and then it can either, depending on how you push it, it can either fall off the back this way, or it can go around this way and then shoot off this way. So it all depends. But again, either too soft, just right, or too much, kind of like Goldilocks here. You want to find that just right amount. So that will take the most practice. Again, release your index finger and then gently bring your middle finger closer to your thumb. And then if all goes well, the pen should go around your thumb, and then this part of the pen that's close to your index finger should fall in between your index finger and your thumb. And then from here, obviously, you just want to kind of clamp down to catch it. And that is it. It's the setup, which is, middle fingers near the middle of the pen, your index fingers wherever it lands, your thumb is kind of opposite of that, or even, slightly lower than that. Release, push, and then clamp down to catch. So those 3 steps are what you need to do to learn the Thumbaround. Of course, everyone's going to ask, well, I can't catch it. What am I doing wrong? And it's all about getting a feel for where the pen is and how it's spinning. I would err on the side of pushing it more gently than more forcefully. And the reason for that is because if you do it too gently, the pen, I'm trying to do it too gently. It's hard because of muscle memory. If you do it too gently, the worst case scenario is that the pen falls towards you at least. If you do it too forcefully, the pen goes flying off this way and you have to go chase it and catch it, which is annoying. Especially if you're doing this in class or something. You don't want it to be flying off your desk into your classmates' space or whatever. But doing it too gently is not too bad. And if you can still do the Thumbaround really gently, just like that, or you can also do it forcefully. But try to do it consistently with the same force every single time when you first start learning, because it'll just make it easier on your muscle memory to know. Of course, you can do it quickly, you can do it more slowly, but it still works either way. But again, try to be consistent in the ways that you do it. Don't just try to willy-nilly and blindly go and try to push it at different forces and speeds. Again, try to push it with a very consistent and very smooth motion. You don't want to snap because, again, it can go too fast, but you don't want to push it too slow because it could just fall off your hand like that. It's all about balance, like literally and figuratively. So one thing that I almost forgot to mention is that some people will notice I have a hitchhiker's thumb, which means I can bend my thumb back extremely far, and I can't get the angle right. I guess that's the best. It can be almost 90 degrees, and I can even push it back even further. But some people were like, well, that gives you an unfair advantage because if you do this and you do the Thumbaround, then you have basically a little crevice here where the pen can kind of be guided towards into your, into your catch. And that is true. But, and there's always a but, there are plenty of pen spinners out there who are not double jointed like me, who do not have a hitchhiker's thumb, and they can still do the trick well. In fact, watch here. I can still do the trick even though my thumb doesn't necessarily bend. It goes like this, which I think is reasonable to expect that anyone can bend their thumb back a little bit. And I know there's some people who, like I've seen people who cannot, pull their thumb back farther than essentially straight. But they can still do it. You just gotta practice with it, And I'm trying my best not to do it, but it's kind of, again, muscle memory and reflex for me. But it is definitely possible to do without a hitchhiker's thumb. The guy who got me into pen spinning does not have hitchhiker's thumb, and he's the one who taught me, and I can see it. And obviously, there are a lot of pen spinners out there who are not double jointed, again, who do not have a hitchhiker's thumb and can do it. So whether or not you have a hitchhiker's thumb or not, you can definitely do it. I believe in you. You got what it takes, so no worries there. So that should do it officially for my remastered tutorial for the Thumbaround pen spinning trick. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe for more in the future, and I'll see you guys in the next video.